Okay, and now we'll just have that famous delay that Facebook is famous for as we log on and we connect to our mighty mystery fam. I'm going to log in here on my second screen so I can be sure to catch any questions for you. And we are live. Welcome, mighty mystery fans. I'm your on-air host, Sara DiVello, and I am thrilled to be here today hosting Marybeth Mayhew Whalen, author of This Secret Thing. Marybeth, welcome. Tell us about your book.
Wow. Okay. I'm very glad to be here today. Yeah. And let's see, tell about the book. The book is based on the arrest of a suburban madam, an alleged suburban madam. And it follows four women that are in her life directly or indirectly when the book begins. And one detective who's kind of after her because he believes she has some direct or indirect knowledge about where his brother is because his brother's missing. So it has a cast of about 5 characters and just what's going on with them. And basically, the suburban madam is not the only one who's been keeping secrets. So.
Woo! Suburban Madam, I am in. I love this kind of juice. So I just want to say, I want to get into all of that and tell us the backstory of this book and all these good things. But first, I just want to say hi to our friends on Facebook. Everybody, welcome. You know how this works. And if you're new here, here's how it works. This is your time to chat with Marybeth. So any questions you have about her brand new book, This Secret Thing, about suburban madams, about her writing process, about anything that's weighing on your mind, be sure to ask it. You could just type your questions right there in the comment box. Also, tell us where you're watching from. I know I'm always curious. The one good thing about this pandemic is there's no geographical barriers anymore to book events. So tell us where you're listening from. I always love to hear far and wide, and get your questions going. Oh, Gail Rosenfeld saying hi. Hi, Gail, top community member there. Gail, we're glad to have you back. Let us know what questions you have for Marybeth. I know it always takes me a minute to think of my questions. So while everyone's thinking, I'm just going to share a few words of praise that this book has earned. The New York Journal of Books raving, This Secret Thing is intricate and contains several subplots with multi-dimensional characters. It is incredible that a small neighborhood could hold so much secrecy and mystery, but one never knows what goes on behind closed doors. Reading like a modern day Peyton place, this page turner offers juicy gossip and mounting suspense, keeping one captivated up to the welcome and satisfying conclusion. Ooh, yum. So tell us, what's the secret to writing multi-dimensional characters? How do you do that?
Well, I got asked that when I first started doing this back with my first novel. That one was called The Things We Wish Were True. And it also had a multi-cast, several POVs going on, and POV stands for point of view. And when I wrote that and I was, talking to my editor, we were kind of having that initial get to know you kind of little meeting. She said, I just don't understand, like, how do you keep up with, at the time that was 6 characters. And I said, well, I have 6 children. So it feels very natural to me to deal with 6 individuals who have their own agendas, their own personalities, and to be able to keep all the plates spinning as far as those people. And so I don't know, I think I might get bored if I didn't have that many people to keep up with in a novel as well. So it just feels natural.
Oh, wow. Okay. Very cool. And interesting that you're able to do that, to correlate that to all the personalities of these 6 humans that you are raising. So
yes, exactly.
That makes sense.
Decades of training, I guess.
Decades of training. You heard it here. You heard it here first, mighty mystery fam. Donna is saying, I'm so glad I found this. I would not have suspected the story from the title. Yes, I'm totally hooked on this book. Me too, cool. Donna, good comment. I know, we're looking at the cover. We're seeing a peaceful suburban scene, a beautiful fall foliage. Looks like a peaceful little happy cul-de-sac neighborhood. And yet we're hearing about a suburban madam. Tell us both the story behind this title and the story behind the story.
Sure. Over a decade ago in my hometown, a woman was arrested, very similar to this, as a suburban madam. She, and when that news broke, I didn't even know suburban madams existed. And I remember reading the newspaper article, because back then you got a newspaper delivered every day. And I was just stunned that this could go on, and especially in the area of our town that it was going on. it was hard to imagine. And so when I read it in that article, it said that she had 2 teenage daughters. I think it was 2. And I remember at that moment, that's when the character of Violet was born. Because I thought to myself, it's hard enough just to be a teenage girl, but what's it like to be a teenage girl in that position? And I just started mulling that over. And like I said, that's been a long time ago that the character who ultimately became Violet came to me. And I've just kind of been sitting with her for a long time. And it was her turn.
Wow. Okay, cool. So for those who are wondering, Violet is the daughter of this alleged suburban madam. And you just heard straight from the author herself, right from Marybeth, the secret behind how she came up with this book. Now, Marybeth, was that in by the way, friends, Marybeth is joining us from North Carolina today. She splits her time between North Carolina and California. Was that in North Carolina where this real life madam was, was it in North Carolina where this real life madam was arrested?
Yeah, it was in North Carolina. And since then, I've learned that it's actually not that uncommon. And if you Google Suburban Madam, you will get more hits than you expect. And so I was able to, there was actually a Dr. Phil recording on YouTube that I was able to watch that was a kind of an in-depth interview with a madam. And so that was kind of how I did my research, was just reading articles about, how they were prosecuted and how they were handled in these individual towns all over really the country. So,
wow.
yeah.
I mean, first of all, it's so fascinating that, first of all, let's break it down. Let's get into the meat. It's so fascinating that I live in the city. So so the only madam stories I'm familiar with are, Law and Order, the city madams. So
Yeah.
It's sort of fascinating to me that in this bucolic, settled, peaceful suburban oasis, there could be existing a thriving madam business. I mean, how does that even work in the suburbs? I don't know. And then that this businesswoman, this madam, would have teenage daughters, you being the mother of 6, that must have been so hard to reconcile. I mean, I can't even really get it in my brain.
I know. I was the same way. And that's when I started, I didn't want to just go off this one story because I knew that there were more. And so when I started researching, that's pretty common. I mean, they kind of live double lives. They front as these ordinary suburban moms. And in a couple of cases, they had other ordinary suburban moms kind of working for them. And so all of them fronted as just, soccer moms, but then they kind of had this double life. And so I don't know, it was just too ripe not to mine a little bit and see how that plays out. And I do like to cover that topic of just the idea of, I mean, as the title says, this, secrets that we keep. And obviously in the book, the other characters are not keeping that kind of secret, but they do have secrets. So.
Exactly. So was the title, This Secret Thing, was it title number 1? Was it number 101? Did you go through any others? Tell us the secret of the title.
It actually came out of the writing. There is a moment in the book where one of the characters named Bess, she's talking about something completely different. And she just says, it was this secret thing. It wasn't hurting anybody. And when I wrote that, I thought, that's what they all think. And when this book begins, that's what they all think, is that their secret is not hurting anybody. And that's the thing about secrets. And if you read any of my books, that's a theme I revisit again and again, is that, yeah, secrets can be a lot more damaging than we think. So.
Wow, interesting. Now, what about your editorial and publishing team? Did they love it immediately? Did you have to fight for it?
Title? Yeah, they bought it when I proposed it. It was proposed as the secret thing, and then that's what went from there.
Oh, cool. Now, what about the cover? Did they send it to you and you knew this was it, or did you have a tussle over that?
The cover was a lot of iterations. It was hard to capture something that was both, mysterious but not scary. That's hard. Because like you said, it's a bucolic scene, and really the neighborhood where this kind of takes place is pretty bucolic. I mean, on the surface. And again, we go back to that surface versus behind the scenes. And so we wanted something that looked tranquil, yet possibly something could be going on. And it took, I have to hand it to the team. They really went again and again to the literal drawing board, and we were all excited when this is what emerged. So
awesome. And what about some of the ones that didn't make it? Did any of them stick with you? The one that got away?
There was one, and that's so funny because I don't know, I guess my brain just discarded it. But there was one I remember that I really, really liked, and we went several different rounds trying to get it to work, and it just because that's the thing with a novel. I know the story part of it, but I'm not the marketing and sales person, so I don't know what appeals to readers. I know what appeals to me, and so that's where I have to kind of just trust my team and back off. So I remember there was one I really liked and kind of pushed for, but for whatever reason, I remember it just didn't make the cut. So,
Oh,
but
interesting.
I can't picture another cover than that one. Now that we have that one, it's perfect.
Oh, yay. Sometimes you got to kiss a few frogs to find the right one, I guess, whether it's covers or dating.
Yeah. Well, it's like when you have a child and you think about names and, just like this name, this name, this name, then you name the child and you're like, oh, and later you're like, I could never have pictured another name for that child. So that's kind of the way a cover goes. You see all these different iterations. And then once you get the one, it's like, nope, that's the one that fits.
Good to know. Good to know. Now, what about your research process? So you were obviously following the story of the suburban mom that you had read about in your neighborhood. You got the newspaper back in the days of the newspaper coming. Some people still get the newspaper, and you were following the story. Did you do anything else in terms of research into this secret world of suburban madams?
I mean, just Googling, like I said, just Googling and reading. And like I said, there was a YouTube Dr. Phil episode there was one up in upstate New York, and she did run it out of the city, but she was based out of like a tranquil little community, small town in upstate New York. So hers was really fascinating too. And I just kind of would pick little aspects from their story, little things they said. Mostly what I'm looking for is their attitude, their outlook, their perspective. And sometimes, you'll hear their rationalizations or their, whatever they say, and you're kind of like, okay, I want to get inside the head of these people. So that helps me.
Exactly, because it's so startling that someone could be a soccer mom and then also a secret madam or a secret, employee of a madam. And is it all about the money, or is it about the secret, or what is the motivation? So this is so fascinating. Darlene saying, beautiful cover, interesting story. We totally agree, Darlene. Thank you. Donna saying, Marybeth, don't give up on the other cover. Write a book that will fit it.
That's
Donna,
a good idea. That's a good idea.
Ooh, then we'll have you back to Mighty Mysteries and you tell us about that one. How cool would that be?
That would be awesome. That would be great.
Donna, we love that idea. We love that idea. So, Marybeth, this is your 9th book. What have you learned along the way about writing? What can you tell us? What do you think the 3 most important things to writing a fantastic book is? Or writing a mystery that keeps those pages turning, keeps the reader up till 3 a.m. begging just one more chapter?
Well, I do think you have to set up the question of there has to be some question for the reader that's a through line through the story, and the question should present itself pretty quickly. I know as a reader, if that doesn't present itself pretty quickly, I tend to grow bored. And so I'll put that book down, and then sometimes I never come back to it. So I'm pretty intentional in setting up a through line that will go, and usually that through line is what really happened in some way, shape, or form. And I want the reader to be asking that question. And so for this one, it's a couple of things. Number one is Nora, the alleged madam, is she really guilty of what she's being accused of? And then also the detective that's involved, his brother is missing. And so you are kind of wondering what's going on with that. And is there a tie to Nora? And so that's what I set up with this one. So I would definitely say that. Also, let's see, what other things about writing would I say? The through line, and then I try to write from a place of joy, and even you can write. I mean, that's one thing I really love about Stephen King. When you read him, he can be writing these really dark, scary scenes, but you can just kind of feel the joy that he felt when he was writing it, even though it's a scary book or whatever. And that's one thing I really learned from him, especially his book on writing. And I try to always bring that to the page and not write under duress, and write because this once upon a time was a hobby for me. I was a stay-at-home mom, and when I had a few minutes, I wrote, and I never want to lose that sense of like, oh, I get to do this. So
Oh, I love that. I love the gratitude of that. And the attitude of gratitude and the
Exactly.
attitude of joy.
Exactly.
We are
Which
blessed
is
to be
not
able to
always
do.
easy. Yeah,
No.
that's not always easy, especially when you're under deadline and you don't feel great or whatever. But I do try to always, even, when there's times when I don't, I always try to come back to it somehow, whatever way I need to do that. So
Oh, I love that. I love that. Um, Gail saying she will never look at her neighbors the same way again. Gail, I think we're all
yeah,
going to be looking at our neighbors the same way.
yeah.
I will be thinking it's interesting because in my neighborhood, again, I live in the city, but I live in a very old part of Boston.
Oh,
And
neat.
I have recently learned that one of the buildings on my block was a home for intemperate ladies. And those ladies sound like a rollicking good time. And 3 blocks over and 1 block down, there was also a city madam who ran a thriving business up until the 70s. And actually, one of my friends in the neighborhood who grew up here, his mom used to, when she was heading out to get groceries, used to ask the ladies who were hanging out on the stoop, "Oh, would you mind babysitting for an hour?" so they
That's
so
too good.
he had a yeah, and they would, because they had nothing else to do, so yeah, that was what they did during the
That's
news, is
funny.
babysat him. So you never know.
Yeah,
um
that's
i I want to give a shout out to my partner in crime, pun intended, Sarah Christensen Fu, who's handling things over on Facebook. Sarah, thank you. This is the Sara team today. Marybeth, how long did it take you to write this book? Speaking of being under deadlines, soup to nuts, start to finish, how long did it take you?
usually it's about a year's commitment, and that's first draft, then developmental edits, then let's see, copy edits, then line edits. So usually by the time you're done, like, you never want to see that book again. You never
Yep.
want to read those pages ever again. And so, but it's usually, from the time I contract to write it and then we're kind of done out the door, it's a solid year. So that's why also, when you're asking about writing tips, you gotta really want to write this book and spend a
Mm.
year with these people, these characters. And that's part of the bring joy to the page kind of attitude. It's like, I'm trying to decide what to do next, and I'm being very, very careful, just because I know whatever I pick, these people are going to be my companions for the next year, and I want to spend the time with them. So
Yeah, because it's a lot of time.
mhm.
So, what's your writing day look like? You, as a mom of 6 children, my goodness, how do you rise with the sun, race to your desk, try to get a couple pages done, or do you put the kids to bed? You're up late writing. What does it look like?
Well, I have to say they're all growing up and going away now on their own ventures. So we don't have as many at home as we used to. When they were all home, though, yeah, it was a lot of nap time writing, a lot of early morning, late at night writing, just wherever I could get it. One of the books that was most helpful, and I'm always quick to mention this book for anybody who's trying to find time to write. It's a book called Pen on Fire, PEN, Pen on Fire. And it's by Barbara DeMarco Barrett. And the premise of that book is basically, if you have 15 minutes, write. And I used to be very precious about my writing time. Like, I had to have 2 hours and I had to have no noise. And I was way too precious about it, but it became an excuse.
Mm.
And after I read that book, it was like, okay, the excuses are gone. I'm going to write no matter what. And I'm going to try this method. It's not a method, but what she says in the book. And it did. It made a big, big difference. I mean, because 15 minutes, you can get 100 words, and 100 words is more than you had before. And 15-minute increments here and there, before you know it, you've got, your word count's building, and you feel like, okay, wow, I've got a book coming. So
Mm.
anyway,
I
that's
love that. I love that.
yeah.
And how do you push through on the hard days? How do you push through when the words aren't coming, when your brain is frozen, or you have a cold, or you're congested, or you just feel like crap? How do you push through? Do you just take the day off? Or are you like, my butt's not leaving this chair till I get my pages done?
Both. I think both. I mean, I think you have to recognize the days where you just need to give yourself grace. But
Mm.
then I think you also have to recognize the days where you sit down and write something. Even if you just sit down and start typing, I don't want to write this book. I hate these characters. I wish I did anything other than write. Just whatever you need to do, and then see if something will come after that
Mm.
barrier that you're facing. And just by writing about the barrier, sometimes it'll break, and then the words will start coming. You're like, oh, I remember, I like to do this. So
Oh,
yeah.
I love that. I love that. I want to welcome Casey, just joining us on Facebook over there. Hey, Casey, she's one of our team of volunteers. She does all our TikTok videos for you. So that blazing TikTok that
Oh, that was
launched our
so
day.
cool. That was so fun.
She's
Thank
super
you.
cool. She's a dancer and a TikTok master. So sometimes she
That's so
incorporates
cool.
she gives us a little dance in the TikTok, which is always my favorite. Casey, welcome. Let us know if you have any questions for Marybeth. Everyone else who's still watching, thanks for hanging with us. What questions do you have for Marybeth? We are here for you. Marybeth, meanwhile, what is some of the worst writing advice that you've ever gotten that you would like to, just a bad rumor that's going around that you would like to tell people to never mind on that?
Probably that there is any one right way to do it. There's that, I can praise Stephen King, but then also I can say there's that part on writing where he says, he writes every day except his birthday and Christmas. And then he says, no, I even write those days too, if I'm honest. And for a while that felt like a little like, okay, well, am I even a serious writer if I don't write every day, even on, Christmas and my birthday? And I thought, well, also he's a man. So,
Yeah.
Tabitha is in the background pulling off Christmas probably.
Right.
And there's just things that you have to go, okay, that's his or her situation. And this is mine.
Yes.
And either way, whether I write fast, whether I write slow, if this is the book for me to write, I will get it written. And in the end, I will be glad I did it. And you just kind of have to hang on to that.
Exactly. So. And I totally agree. I was on a writing panel once at a writing conference, and one of the other panelists, she said, you have to be diligent about it. And she said, I start at 7 and I end at 4 and there's no exceptions ever. And I felt like such a horrible, I felt like such a loser, like a slacker, a total zero, because I was not at my desk at 7 and writing until 4 and then I was like, I will do it. I will get to my desk. And so I did. I lasted 3 days. And then I wanted to kill myself. So yeah. And then I just realized that's her practice and that works for her. That is not my practice and that doesn't work for me. I can't write every day. I've got a lot of other things going on in my life, and we all have to find our way. And I love that you're empowering people to do that. So thank you for your honesty.
Absolutely. Yeah. And for me, 1,000 words a day is my sweet spot. If I push too much past that, I usually run dry. And if I don't make it to that, then I'm probably copping out. So I kind of know 1,000 words is my sweet spot. And it's simple math. If your average book is 80 to 90,000 words long and you write 1,000 words a day for 90 days, that's 3 months. You've got a draft.
I love
roughly,
that.
Maybe add another month, let's say 4 months for the days that we do take off because we just can't do it that day. So in 4 months, you've got a draft. It might be horrible, but it's more than you had 4 months ago. And so that's just mathematics, which I'm not good at math, but I can do that math. So
you and me both. I love that. I love that writer math. Casey saying, I'm reading your book right now and I love it so far. Aww. Yay, Casey, that's awesome. Gail saying she agrees that there's no right way to live your life. Absolutely. Just take that pressure off. Life is too short to be holding yourself up and feeling bad. Marybeth, what's your favorite scene from your new book?
Oh gosh, that's a great question that I have not been asked.
I love that.
Favorite scene.
I like to grill my authors, grill them up good here on the
seriously.
Blaze.
Pressure. Let's see. What is a favorite scene? I think that, and this is going to sound like a cop out, but the one that comes to me most often, when I think about the book, is the opening of the book. Violet, the daughter of the suburban madam, she's talking about remembering that the day before her mother had brought home this gigantic pumpkin. And she's like, why did she bring this pumpkin home? It's September. We don't get our pumpkin till October because we don't want it to rot, in time for Halloween. And it's just I can still just see what I saw in my head when I wrote that scene. And it's kind of this, when you look back, it's kind of this foreboding thing. You do wonder, why did Nora bring that pumpkin home when she did? Did she know she wasn't going to be there for the fall? And it's just a really kind of sweet, but also kind of foreboding scene. And it also really sets up Violet's personality and her thought life. And I just rooted for Violet very much so through this book. So.
Oh, I love that. I love that. We have another question from the audience. Darlene asking, with fiction, how do you choose your character's name? Absolutely. Tell us. Nora, Violet. We have said, I mean, by the way, I love both of those names. How do you choose your character's names?
Well, for one, I really like odd names, and I get questions sometimes like, why do you pick such weird names? But I like names that are odd because I think they kind of help the character stand out a little more. But that's just me. And so I'll keep a running list. I have a writer's notebook, and I keep a running list of character names. And so when I'm naming characters, I'll just, almost like a baby name book, I'll just scan through those names and see if anything jumps out at me. So that's actually how I do it. And a lot of times, like if you're on, like people are on Facebook today, if you're on Facebook, that's a wealth of names. Just scan names that people have. And if one catches your eye, keep a list, and then you'll have it later when you need to name a character. That's what I do.
Oh, I
used to do
it.
Before Facebook, and I used to do magazine mastheads.
Oh,
and I
cool.
would read the magazine mastheads and write down any names that I liked. So,
oh, I love that. I love that. Casey chiming in saying, I love the Casey name choice. Casey, I think we've solved the mystery as to why you're loving this book.
Yeah,
fantastic.
Well, I love Casey. She's a great character. I rooted for her as well.
Oh, yay. It's so perfect then that our beloved Casey is doing that blazing TikTok for us.
I know. Full circle.
I've never met a bad Casey. I've never met a Casey I didn't love.
Me either.
Do you have any weird writing rituals? Show us your weird, Marybeth.
Show us my weird. Okay. I actually, I did a writer's podcast not long ago, and I said this, and he was like, that's the first time I've gotten that answer. So it must be weird.
I'm leaning in.
Yeah. But when I wrote my very first book, I started a Pandora channel. Back then, Pandora, there was no Spotify.
Yep.
And I started a Pandora channel, and I started adding, started off with one artist and then started adding other artists. And it's now become kind of the same playlist, book after book. And I write with that Pandora channel every single book.
Oh my God, that's so cool. I love that.
But it's become kind of Pavlovian, because when I hear those songs, it's like, oh, it's time to write, because it's the same songs. And a lot of times if they'll, sometimes they'll like play a new song for you just to try to get you to try something new and get out of your rut. I like my rut, and I'm like, no, dislike, get off of my channel. You don't belong. So yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. And do you play it on mix, or it's the same order?
It's just that one channel, and so it shuffles it all by itself. So yeah.
Oh wow,
it's just different. It's just different.
Cool.
Just the different artists. So yeah.
Wow. Well, in the time I've been doing this, which is, I don't even know, since the beginning of the pandemic, so 7 months now, I've never heard that answer. I've heard a lot of weird, but I've never heard that. And I absolutely love it, because it is Pavlovian. So when you hear that music, your brain is like, oh, gotta click in, gotta get to work.
It's like people say, they light a candle or something like that. To kind of tell themselves it's time, or, usher themselves into the writing space or whatever they want to say. For me, it's just turn that music on. So.
And who are some of the artists on that list?
Weird artists that most people don't even know. The main artist that kicked it all off is a Scottish band called the Blue Nile.
Okay.
And I started with them, and then began to add other ones. I'm trying to think who's on there. David Gray.
I love David Gray. I've seen him in concert. I don't go to many concerts, but I went to him.
I've seen him in concert an embarrassing amount of times.
I love it.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. So I'm trying to think who else. I am drawing a blank right now, but that kind of similar sound, just kind of, it's not not easy listening, but it's not rock and roll either. It's somewhere in the middle. So it's kind of soothing music. But also a lot of the lyrics are pretty deep, and that helps me kind of go deeper emotionally. Sometimes it seems like the right song plays at the right time, and it's helpful.
Oh, I love that. All right. I'm actually a Pandora girl. I'm old fashioned. I have not segued over to Spotify. I'm not cool like Casey. I'm not on TikTok yet. So I am going to you have inspired me to go to Pandora and create my very own playlist. Yeah. This is so cool.
Well, it's funny because my husband came to me recently, and he was like, can we stop paying for the no ad Pandora? Because this is just dumb. Like, nobody even uses Pandora. I was like, you do not do that. You do not cancel my Pandora channel, and I will not have ads, because that would totally throw me off. And he was like, okay, I won't
You're
cancel
like,
it. So
come on, man, it's $36 a year.
exactly.
That's
It's $4.99 a month or whatever it is. Yeah.
That's a lunch out.
Exactly. That's a coffee at Starbucks. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's one coffee at Starbucks. Gail saying she loves David Gray too. She's seen him in concert a few times too. Wow, that's so cool. The three of us.
Back in the days when we used to be allowed to go to concerts, we were supposed to see him in August. We're still sad because he didn't come. So
I know it. You know what's really crazy about this pandemic is thinking of all the things we used to do in public. Movie theaters, sitting next to mouth breathers, never even thinking about it. Concerts, theater. I mean, I just think about all airplanes, all the things we used to do and just not even think about it. It's really kind of crazy.
I know. And I wonder too how it's going to affect writing going forwards, because some of the scenes that I want to write now couldn't happen if the pandemic was in effect, but we don't know how long. It's just like,
right.
I think that's one of the things that is affecting me deciding what I'm going to do next, because I'm like, I don't know how long this is going to last, and so it's just affected all of our kind of reality.
Right, exactly.
But I don't want to write it in.
Right, exactly. So if you write it without masks, then are you writing before the pandemic, or are we going to get back to a world where we don't have to wear masks, or is it going to date the book that you're not wearing a mask? I mean, it is so crazy. And I think not knowing when it's going to end is the hardest part. If I had a date in mind, I'd be counting down those days. I could do it. It's the hardest part, to be in limbo and be, playing it safe, which of course I am. Abiding by all the rules and wearing my mask.
Right.
It's very strange time. Gail saying she remembers concerts too. We all do. The good old days when you could just go to the movies, go to the concert,
go out. Yeah,
exactly.
Go out at all. Yeah,
go out at all. Oh, the sweet outside. Oh my gosh. All right, we have just a few minutes left. So if anyone has any more questions for Marybeth, just go ahead and type them in. We have just about 3 more minutes. So just go ahead and type them in the comments. I'll get them right on over to her. In the meanwhile, I actually posted that I was hosting this in a few mystery and thriller groups. So we have questions from them. One thing you would like people to know about you?
Oh gosh. I think I've said them all. I think I've said all the things that are in any way.
We know Marybeth now.
I'm pretty simple. How about that? Yeah.
I love it. What's one book that's changed your life?
Oh gosh. One book that's changed my life. How about the last book I read that really impacted me? Okay.
Perfect.
Anxious People by Frederick Bachman was amazing.
Excellent.
I loved it.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. I was just saying it's a found family kind of novel, and he takes the most unlikely circumstance and he pulls a few twists on you, but at the end, you're just crying. So it's classic Frederick Bachman. So.
Oh, I love that. I love that. What was the single hardest thing about writing this book?
The book before it, I could have told you a lot of hard things about writing that one. This one, I mean, it wasn't all hearts and flowers all the time, but it was a pretty good process. But I felt like I had it coming to me because the book before it was just so hard. Everything that could have gone wrong did go wrong, and I wanted to quit so many times. And so when this one came along, I kind of was like, "Oh, do I even want to write again?" And so it was nice to enjoy writing a book again.
Oh, yes. That is so nice. Darlene saying she's also reading Anxious People. She loves how each chapter exposes a little more of the story. Gail saying it's getting great reviews. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm going to have to check this out.
I'm going to tell everybody to go read another book besides mine. But no, she's right. It does. Like every chapter you think you've got a gauge on what's going on. And then, you're like, oh, wait. So, yeah. But it made me feel good about humanity. And right now, I just think that's really important. And that is one thing, maybe that is one thing I would want people to know about me, because I write pretty dark stuff, but I write with a redemptive end in mind always. And so never read my books and think that I won't lead you to hope, because I'll figure out a way to do that.
Oh, I really do need that, especially during a pandemic. I need to know that there's going to be, there is a redemptive ending, because I'm fragile right now. I'm white knuckling it.
That's so many of us are. You're right.
Yeah, exactly. One more from the Mystery and Thriller Writer Cafe. Who is one writer you would love to meet, living or dead?
That's a hard. There's so many that come to mind. I would probably say Elizabeth Berg, because she's like one of my all-time favorites, and I just respect her so much. So,
oh, yay. Well, on that note, I just want to thank you, Marybeth Mayhew Whalen, author of This Secret Thing, this gorgeous book. We have been.
It is very pretty.
It's gorgeous. We have loved having you here on Mighty Mystery. Thank you to all of our friends on Facebook for tuning in. Thank you to my partner in crime, Sara Christensen Fu, founder of Hey Sara Social Media and PR, for handling things for me over on Facebook, volunteering her time as well. Most of all, I want to thank everyone for tuning in. And you, Marybeth, author of This Secret Thing, you can buy it today through our very special partnership with bookshop.org, which supports our beloved independent bookstores. So that is linked in the comments. So buy This Secret Thing through bookshop.org. Support your independent bookstores. They're going to be here for you after the pandemic. So we have to be here for them during the pandemic. Marybeth, thank you so much. Congratulations already on all your amazing reviews, over 2,000 ratings on Amazon already, and the book's just out. We cannot wait to have you back on Mighty Mysteries. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Anytime. Thank you. I had a great time.
Yay. We'll see you next time here on A Mighty Mystery. Everybody else, Dean Koontz coming up at 4 p.m. Stay tuned.